All right, for this session, we are looking at public education. We have two speakers. I am, by the way, stepping in for Alex. Oddly enough, he's having a mooring issue in Destin Harbor he had to go deal with right now. So Alex had to step up, so I'm going to step in for him. Our first speaker is Donielle Nardi from Florida Sea Grant. She's a communications director, and she's going to be talking about communicating with the public. Go ahead, Donielle.
Okay, hi. Hopefully y'all can see me. You're having a good day. Hopefully you all ate lunch and you're not about to fall asleep, but I'm sorry if this bores you. So I'm going to be talking a little bit about communication more broadly, specifically online communication, and then have maybe some more specific examples that are a little bit more targeted. So here we go. Just quick background on me, just so you know kind of where I'm coming from. My background is in documentary film, and I've worked in higher education for a while now, and started with Sea Grant in 2021. So I like to, my main, projects usually involve video stuff, web, but all types of different communications and different mediums. So I'm going to be chatting a little bit about visual identity. I know I'm speaking to, a pretty wide audience here, people in different industries. So I'm kind of taking like a more overview approach to visual design and what I feel like makes a good website, social media presence, all of that stuff. And hopefully at least one or two things relate to everybody. So, visual identity. So we recently went through a kind of what we're calling a brand refresh at Florida Sea Grant, and Sea Grant at large actually did the same thing. This photo is from Port LaBelle Marina. As you can see, their logo is there. I thought it was really great, so I wanted to include it. For us, so we post content. I'm sure you guys have been talking about Florida Sea Grant earlier in the day, but we share educational content and resources. And then, we also share partner stuff. So it's our job to kind of be experts in certain fields, and then also to educate our audiences. So some of you might be doing a similar thing. And in order to do that, you need to be able to have people recognize who you are, right? So that first step is establishing your name, your logo. Some of you already work for companies where this exists. Having a current website is very important. Having a social media presence. I know not everybody is super into social media, but unfortunately, it's kind of just expected of businesses now. Having consistent messaging and signage that kind of connects those two, and then obviously good customer service, good interaction with the public and people that you're working with. So I don't know how many of you are familiar with Patagonia. I really love Patagonia. I love all their gear. I love all their stuff. I think they do a really, really good job of kind of developing this sense of adventure and all of these different qualities that I feel like people are sort of familiar with if they know that brand. So visual identity is important because you want, your customers or the public, anybody who's interacting with your company or your brand, to feel a certain way about you or to feel a certain way about themselves when they're interacting with you. So for me, this is the picture taken from Patagonia's, I think, current Facebook page, which I feel like, to me, conveys all of these things. Kind of adventure, exploration, wonder, confidence, bravery, all of these different things that you might associate with this clothing company that is for, outdoor adventures, hiking, a million different things. So I thought this was really, really nice and really well chosen, this photo, because it's, a very beautiful, grand landscape. So it's something that invites you in. And then you can obviously also see the person wearing the gear. And it kind of makes you, it's like, oh, I want to be that person. I want the gear. I want to be doing that. So similarly with Florida Sea Grant, we try to use like really pretty, large, grand landscapes, beautiful water shots of Florida, Obviously, it's awesome having action shots. That's what we have, our amazing extension agents. So it's great to get photos and videos of them in the field. And we're trying to do that more and more. So having photos of people at your space, interacting with the environment is always really, really a really great way to kind of bring people in and get people to identify you visually. Okay, website. So we just redesigned our website last summer, which was a pretty intense process. The previous website, I think it was maybe around 5 years old. So we had a lot we needed to do because, you know, in 5 years, a lot changes. The majority of people who are going to go on your website or pretty much any website are going to be on their phone. So you have to really think about making your website mobile friendly, which is something that we had to really pay attention to because, like I said, the previous website was not mobile friendly. So we had to kind of think about designing the website one way for mobile and then an entirely different way for desktop and for tablet. So a lot of you, I'm sure, have websites that you work on for work. You either have, you know, your own website, your work's website. Maybe you are in the back end of it. Maybe you're just getting others to add content to it. But if you're unfamiliar, you know, there are a bunch of different CMSs, content management systems that are available. We use WordPress at Florida Sea Grant. It's super user friendly. There's also like Wix, Squarespace, Weebly is one that I've used in the past. But the great thing about these CMSs now is that they're just so user friendly and everything is like templatized. They have tons of different layouts and backgrounds, and you just swap in photos, and it's really nice now because you can get a pretty modern, well-crafted website up in like a day if you have the, you know, the copy content that you need. So that's very different than it used to be when you had to do your own coding and all of that stuff, which is incredibly time consuming, at least for me. So if you guys are, you know, you find yourself in a situation where you are updating a website, creating a new website that's going to contain information, you know, for the public, different things, you might be wondering, you know, how do I go about this? This seems like a pretty intense endeavor. And it can seem pretty daunting, even when you're just, you know, redesigning an existing website, even when you have all the content. It's like, okay, well, how do I make it easy for people to navigate and find the information that they need? So what we did, and what I think is kind of industry standard, is just going and checking out your competitors or your peer websites or other, you know, agencies, people in your industry. What do their websites look like? Are they mobile friendly? What are they doing that you're really impressed by? You know, do they have moving images? Do they have videos? Is it just really easy to navigate? Do you like the mobile features? Things like that. So what are they doing well? How can you kind of copy what they're doing, or maybe even do it better? What are they doing that you don't like? Maybe the navigation isn't great, or you feel like you have to search like 3 pages deep just to figure out what the contact information is. So maybe going through and doing an audit and like taking some notes and trying to figure out, okay, this is where my content would fit. You know, maybe I don't need this page, but I could potentially do this a little bit better. So that's kind of the first step, is seeing what's out there, what you like, what you don't like. And then imagery is really, really important now. So photography, we have a huge photo library, and I feel like cameras are constantly updating, and you're expected to have like amazing photos now all the time, like on every page of your website, and it can be really daunting. So if you can't take photos yourself, I always recommend, if you have the bandwidth or the budget, hiring a freelance photographer, somebody who's really skilled, who could go out with you and photograph the space, you know, if you can get consent from the public or people you're working with, working in the space in the field. That's always really nice because you can get exactly what you want. We also, we source stock imagery. A lot of the times for us, we can't exactly find what we need because we're looking for very specific things. So particular species of coral, sometimes it's really hard to find that stuff on like Getty Images. So we have to kind of tap into our communities who are actually dealing with maybe treating these corals and have images ready. And then we get, fill out the appropriate paperwork and use those photos where we can. So it's nice to have those networks, but that's an idea too, if you are looking for something very specific that you can't find in a general like stock library. And then if you don't have the money to source paid stock images, because they can be a little bit pricey, there are a few websites. Unsplash is a really good one where you can get pretty good stock imagery of a pretty large variety of things. Pixabay, there are a few others. Some of them are very like lots of pop-ups and ads, so they're a little bit annoying, but I feel like those two are generally pretty good. So that's an idea too. If you want free imagery and you can't hire anybody or take any yourself, think about searching for the royalty-free images. And then interacting with your customers. So going on a website that looks great is, a wonderful experience until you can't find the information that you're looking for, which I feel like nowadays people get very, very frustrated if they can't almost immediately find what they need. So it's very hard to serve all audiences, especially if you have a very wide array of audiences. But making sure that people can at least contact you, like making sure that the contact information is readily available in multiple places on your website is incredibly important. And then thinking about how you want to maintain contact with your audiences. We have a student newsletter, and then we just launched a more general newsletter that we're going to be sending out monthly. So if anyone's interested in that and being a part of that, let me know and I can get you subscribed. But social media, also, again, a way for you to stay in direct contact with the public and people who are wanting to get information from you. So, okay, social media, yes, you have to. So I know that not everybody has the bandwidth to do that, but I mean, maybe, I don't think it's just me. Like, I feel like every single business, that I'm looking up, like from restaurants to, I don't know, shoe stores, like I want to know that I can contact somebody if I have a question outside of just calling or outside of email, and they're going to respond to me or at least be able to point me in the right direction. So again, this can take a lot of effort, but there are ways that you can try to maximize the content that you have. Cross-posting your content to different social media platforms is a great way to kind of make the most out of very little. So even if it's just changing up a few words, you can post the same content to different platforms to reach different audiences, because it's very likely that you have, completely different audiences across. I'm going to let somebody in the, I think, waiting room here. Sorry, hopefully it's. So think about that. Think about ways to maximize your content. You don't have to post something every single day. In fact, that's actually like frowned upon now. And kind of seen as spamming. But even just like I have here, just like a single photo, people love looking at photos, especially well taken photos, and people love looking at faces. So even just like sharing photos of coworkers or customers, like with a testimonial, that stuff usually does really well, at least for us. Especially like when folks receive awards and things like that, that content always does really, really well. So you might not think it's necessarily like content worthy, but it's something that people generally respond to really, really positively. And when people see, at least for me, when they see that you are active on social media, it doesn't even necessarily matter what you're posting, but it does build this feeling of like, okay, they're current, they're up to date, they're present, they're probably way more likely to be responsive to me, which does create kind of an affinity and a trust in your brand or your company. Okay, and there are some ways if you are, you know, you have a really small team, or if it's just you, different things that you can do to kind of, like I said before, make the most out of very little. So creating a community, even just going, you know, on these social channels, like 10 minutes a day and just following other people in the industry, your peers, your competitors, just seeing what they're doing, liking and sharing their content goes a long way. It helps you build relationships, develop a network, and it makes it seem like you're doing, you know, you're creating new content when really you're just kind of like sharing what others are doing, and kind of pushing out their message further, so they appreciate that too. Other things you can do, repurposing content from trusted sources. We do this a lot. People love when you share their stuff. So if you don't have time to create something that's entirely new, you could always think about doing something like this, sharing the content after you've kind of liked and followed. And then free information, that's what keeps people coming back, right? Offering education or commenting on things that are happening. We found that posting more educational content, as opposed to just like promoting an event or promoting a specific person, that does really well. So even if we don't put like a call to action when we post something to social media, it tends to do better and the algorithm likes that better. So when you're not trying to pull people away from the platform by, like, you know, encouraging people to check out a link, the algorithm will reward you if you're just sharing that piece of content. So we've been doing that more lately for publications. So when, you know, a faculty member has a new publication, a new white paper, sometimes we kind of mine that paper for content. Like, okay, what do we think are the 5 most interesting facts in this paper and this peer-reviewed article? And we post that as educational content, repurposed into, you know, a graphic with text on it or something like that. And previously we used to just like share a little bit of text and then try to point people over to get people to click on the link. But we found that, one, you know, most of our audiences were not actually clicking on that link, so they weren't going to the actual article to read it. So that was kind of, you know, pointless. And then we also found that when we don't include that link and when we share actual information that people can learn something from, and it's not just promoting like, please read this, it does much better, and the algorithm ends up kind of helping us out because we're keeping people in Instagram, for example, instead of kind of encouraging them to leave. So that's been working out really well for us, and people tend to come back when you're giving them something for free. So you're giving them free information, you're giving them cool facts that they can share with their friends, whether that's, you know, sharing physically, like online, or just having that in their knowledge bank. It keeps them coming back for more, and, you know, they don't get frustrated because you're just posting promotional content. Also important is creating some type of schedule, some type of consistency. Again, the algorithm likes you to, you know, post regularly. And again, that doesn't mean every single day, but something that's really easy to do is to create like a little campaign. So the example I have here is Sunset Sundays at Sea, just asking folks to send in sunset photos, or even just sharing your own photos every Sunday. Something that, you know, your audiences and the algorithm can start ingesting like however often, every week, or however often you are able to post. And it also kind of holds you accountable too, because, you know, like, okay, you know, if I can just do this one post this week, then I've stayed on track. And then I was kind of moving into like more of the brick and mortar stuff. What do people expect when they actually go to the location? As I said before, it's very likely that most people, their first interaction with you is going to be through your website, through Googling you, probably on their phone. So not only is it important to have a website that's mobile friendly, and, looks very visually similar via mobile and via desktop, but also important to have markers for that branding in your physical space when they actually get there. The last thing you want is somebody to get to, your company or your location, your office, and be like, is this it? Like, am I in the right place? So even just simple things like, having posters, flyers, any type of signage, if there's a store or you have employees where you're, wearing the apparel with the logo on it, or if you're selling apparel with logos on it, that helps kind of like visually bridge that gap when they actually get to the location. And some things you can think about that are pretty simple is, obviously name and logo, but other things like colors and, color palettes. So we have like a brand guide, for example, that has the fonts that we use and the different colors that we use, what those colors kind of convey, and then other imagery that we kind of repeat a lot on our website or on our different social media platforms. So just having those visual markers can be really helpful and can kind of make people feel relaxed and, again, like a little bit more at ease. And again, this is a very simple one, but just how you talk to your customers and audiences. Not everybody needs to know everything. That's very important, but being able to point people in the right direction. So we have an FAQ. I think we did this for Idalia, but I know for Hurricane Ian, we had a pretty large Hurricane Ian landing page for resources for a ton of different audiences. And we did have an FAQ section, which we pointed so many people there. And we just kind of kept adding to it as we kept on getting questions about different things related to the storm and disaster relief and all of that stuff. So that was really helpful, just to have that section on the site where we could point people, if we didn't have somebody that like we could necessarily like sit and chat with somebody on social media who was messaging us, we could be like, here you go over here, and hopefully you can find what you need. If not, send us the question and we'll get the answer and we will add it to the FAQ. So that was definitely really helpful for us, and something that we're going to try to do, add to more of our landing pages, because it has been really nice, especially when you have a smaller team and when your team is actually out in the field doing things, especially when it's, disaster relief related.
Donielle, we have about 2 minutes.
Okay, well, these are all things that I talked about. Does anybody have any questions? I know that was very broad, but I was trying to get something that hopefully most people could relate to in some way. But if anybody has any questions, hit me up, or you can email me. This is my email here. If you have any specific questions about branding or social media or web or design or anything like that.
Okay, yeah, we don't see any questions right now, but we thank you very much for doing this.
Sure, no problem.